Modern engineers, with all our cranes, all our computational power, and all our steel, still scratch our heads at this simple question. How? Forget what you think you know about ancient primitive societies. This video will force you to reconsider the true genius and ingenuity of our distant ancestors. We're going to begin our journey in the ancient city of Baalbek in modern-day Lebanon. Because Baalbek doesn't just challenge conventional understanding, it utterly destroys it. Imagine trying to build a skyscraper with only ropes and copper chisels. That's the foundational problem here. Beneath the ruins of the Temple of Jupiter lies something known as the Trilithon. 3 colossal limestone blocks placed side by side. These aren't just big stones. The largest one, still sitting in the nearby quarry, is often called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. Now, let's talk numbers. This stone alone weighs an estimated 1,000 tons. To give you some context, that is heavier than a fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jet. Conventional theories suggest thousands of men dragging these blocks with simple ropes and sleds. But mathematically and logistically, the effort required to even budge a 1,000-ton stone, let alone lift it 20 feet into the air and place it with precision, simply defies belief. No known ancient technology or even modern human power without immense mechanical assistance could accomplish this. But the mystery deepens when we leave brute size and move to precision. Travel now to the Andes Mountains, to the breathtaking site of Puma Punku. Here, the colossal blocks aren't just massive, they are cut with an almost machine-like accuracy. We are talking about near-perfect 90-degree angles, intricate interlocking joints, and deep, consistent grooves, all carved into extremely hard andesite and diorite stone. These cuts are so precise that a razor blade cannot fit between them. They look like they were made with a powerful industrial tool, not a simple stone hammer. So this is the colossal enigma. Whether it's the unthinkable weight of Baalbek or the impossible precision of Puma Punku, the same question echoes through the ages. If not simple ramps, levers, and countless human laborers, then how were these truly built? This sets the stage for our deep dive into the lost technologies and forgotten knowledge of the ancients. In Section 1, we established the colossal weight and movement problem. But now, let's zoom in, way in, to examine the smoking gun, the stone itself. If the builders used simple copper and bronze tools, which are relatively soft metals, the stones should bear the marks of primitive, laborious effort. Instead, we find evidence of surgical precision that baffles every modern lapidary expert. Consider the megalithic walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru. The builders didn't use simple square blocks. They used enormous stones, some weighing over 100 tons, cut into impossible, irregular shapes. These stones fit together like a 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, with zero mortar and virtually no gap between them. You can't even slide a sheet of paper between the joints. This is not the result of hammering. This demands a level of geometric mastery and controlled cutting we associate with high-powered lasers or industrial stone mills. How do you account for the internal concavities and convexities that perfectly match the stone next to it? It's as if the stone was softened, shaped, and then rehardened. The true archaeological anomaly appears when we look at the tool marks themselves. In Egypt, archaeologists have recovered ancient stone drill cores. When analyzed, these cores show distinct spiral grooves. Modern testing suggests that to achieve these grooves in hard granite, the builders would have needed to apply pressure equivalent to 2 tons per square inch at the cutting point. That's colossal force, far beyond human capacity, pushing a simple bronze drill. It implies a mechanized, high-speed, high-pressure rotary device. Furthermore, some granite artifacts show evidence of being cut by thin, massive circular saws. The cuts are deep and clean, but the kerf or the width of the cut line is incredibly fine. This again contradicts the theory of handheld tools. If you use a handsaw, the resulting cut should be rough and uneven. These cuts are uniform, suggesting a guided, heavy-duty mechanism operating at extraordinary speed and force. This is where the theory of lost technology truly takes hold. These megalith builders were not simply strong, they were scientifically advanced. They must have possessed the knowledge of cutting, drilling, and shaping stone that went beyond metallurgy and simple geometry, perhaps tapping into vibrational energy, sonic frequencies, or chemical softening processes. The mystery shifts dramatically when we look at another strange phenomenon: vitrified forts. These are ancient hill forts found mostly in Scotland, whose stone walls appear to have been subjected to such intense heat that the stones melted and fused together like glass. We're talking about temperatures over 1,000 degrees Celsius, 1,000 grays Celsius. Ask any ancient historian how a so-called primitive society could generate and control that kind of energy, especially not in a furnace, but spread across a massive defense wall. The conventional answer, that enemies piled wood against the walls and set them alight, is logistically absurd. To vitrify stone, you need controlled, sustained, and focused heat over a wide surface area. This points, compellingly, to the use of some kind of localized energy weapon or an industrial process we have yet to rediscover. Were these defenses meant to be melted shut in a crisis? Was the fusion of stone itself a part of the building technique? The sheer energy requirement is a powerful clue that something far beyond fire was at play. Finally, let's consider a more recent yet equally baffling enigma: the Coral Castle in Florida. Built by one man, Ed Leedskalnin, between 1923 and 1951. Ed, a small, frail man, somehow managed to quarry, move, and erect 1,100 tons of limestone, creating complex gates that rotate effortlessly on their center axis and walls built from multi-ton blocks. He claimed he knew the secrets of the ancient pyramid builders. When asked how he moved the stones, he simply said he understood the principles of leverage and electromagnetism. While Coral Castle is modern, it proves a vital point. The seemingly impossible feats of lifting and precise placement can be achieved by a single person, if that person possesses a lost principle. If Ed could do it alone using unknown methods, imagine what a sophisticated ancient civilization, unified under a shared technological principle, could accomplish with the 1,000-ton blocks of Baalbek. The archaeological anomalies, the surgical precision, the signature of high-pressure drilling, the thermal fusing of vitrified forts, and the modern replication at Coral Castle all conspire to tell us the same thing. We are looking at the relics of a forgotten science. We must stop assuming our ancestors were technologically inferior and start asking, what powerful principles did they understand that we, with all our modern knowledge, still fail to grasp? If Section 2 proved that the builders had advanced cutting tools, then Section 3 must answer the ultimate question. How did they defeat gravity? How did they overcome the sheer weight of these multi-ton blocks without the benefit of the engine, the internal combustion crane, or modern hydraulics? We must look beyond the conventional wisdom of brute human strength. Let's start with the logistics nightmare. The conventional theory for the Great Pyramid of Giza suggests that it was built over 20 years by a workforce of around 20,000 people. While 20,000 workers is a huge number, let's look at the math. The pyramid contains roughly 2.3 million stone blocks. That means to complete the structure in 20 years, a block weighing several tons had to be quarried, transported, and placed every 2 to 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that only accounts for the movement. Now consider the logistics of supporting that workforce. Where did they house and feed 20,000 people and their families in the desolate desert for 2 decades? How did they manage the supply chain of fresh water, food, and the copper tools needed to quarry the stone? The logistical infrastructure required to support that kind of non-mechanized, muscle-driven construction effort is, arguably, a greater engineering feat than the pyramid itself. The numbers simply do not add up. This forces us to conclude, it wasn't muscle, it was method. The first truly unconventional method we must explore is acoustic levitation, the idea that sound and vibration could have negated the effect of gravity. This isn't science fiction. It is based on ancient global legends. From Arabic texts discussing the pyramids, to legends of Tibetan monks using synchronized trumpets and drums to lift massive rocks up steep cliffs, the folklore is remarkably consistent. Sound was the key to weightlessness. The physics behind this theory is called resonance. Every object has a natural frequency at which it vibrates. If you apply an external sound wave at that exact resonant frequency, you can drastically reduce the effective mass and friction of the object. Modern science has already achieved this on a micro scale, using sound waves to levitate tiny objects in a controlled environment. What if the megalith builders understood this principle on a macro scale? Imagine massive, specialized resonating chambers, perhaps the internal corridors of the pyramids themselves, or immense tuned instruments, generating specific, low-frequency sound waves. These waves wouldn't be audible noise, they would be controlled, powerful vibrations that made the multi-ton stone blocks slide frictionless across the ground, or even float short distances into their final position. This concept turns the entire idea of construction on its head, moving from force to frequency. Next, let's look at environmental mastery, hydraulics and geological manipulation. Moving 1,000-ton stones across kilometers of rough terrain seems impossible unless you change the ground itself. One theory suggests the builders used sophisticated knowledge of water pressure and controlled flooding, perhaps to float the stones through specially constructed canals or locks. But a more radical and compelling idea is soil or ground liquefaction. We know that saturating certain types of soil with water and subjecting it to strong vibrations, like those generated by controlled sound or mechanical shaking, temporarily causes the ground to behave like a fluid. A huge stone that would normally be stuck in the mud could suddenly be pushed with relative ease across a surface that has been temporarily liquefied. The stone doesn't necessarily float, the ground simply stops resisting the movement. This principle extends to simple mechanical advantage too. We often picture ancient leverage systems as simple wooden beams. But what if the builders possessed sophisticated counterweight systems, a lost form of mechanical physics that used enormous amounts of leverage or perhaps internal counterbalance mechanisms built into the stone sleds themselves, to reduce the perceived weight by a factor of 50 or even 100? This turns the problem of moving a 1,000-ton stone into the manageable task of moving a 10 or 20-ton stone, which, while still challenging, falls within the realm of massive human and animal teams. Finally, we must address the collective intelligence that made this scale of construction possible. These sites, Baalbek, Giza, Pumapunku, Teotihuacan, all share distinct, non-random characteristics: precise astronomical alignments, sophisticated geometry, and construction far surpassing the known civilization of that era. This points to something deeper than local engineering genius. It suggests a single, unified cultural blueprint that existed globally, perhaps the surviving remnant of a highly advanced pre-Ice Age civilization, a global megalithic network. These builders weren't competing tribes. They were collaborators, sharing a common, high-level understanding of physics, astronomy, and mathematics. They understood the science of gravity, resonance, and energy manipulation. The megaliths are the shared legacy of a complex ancient world, united by a profound knowledge that was later fragmented, mented, and lost following a global cataclysm. The mystery of how is not solved by finding a bigger rope, but by recognizing that the solution lies in the elegant application of lost scientific principles. The ancients conquered gravity, not with muscle, but with intellect and energy, and the key to these methods is literally carved into the stone. So far, we've established that the megalith builders possessed tools capable of surgical precision and methods that allowed them to cheat gravity. This leads us to the critical question: what was the purpose? Why invest such colossal effort using such advanced, hidden science just to stack up stones? The answer, many researchers believe, is that these structures are not monuments to kings, but giant scientific instruments, repositories of hidden knowledge. The first, and perhaps most compelling piece of evidence lies in their astronomical alignments. The builders of these colossal sites clearly had a profound working knowledge of the cosmos that surpasses the accepted timeline of human development. Take the Giza pyramids. Their placement is not random. According to the Orion correlation theory, the three pyramids on the Giza plateau perfectly mirror the three stars of Orion's belt. Crucially, they don't map the sky as it looks today. They map the sky as it would have looked around 10,500 BC, a time frame far preceding the conventional dating of the structures. This isn't coincidence. It's a celestial snapshot, an astronomical timestamp written in stone. This correlation isn't limited to Egypt. Across the world, these structures function as giant, highly precise calendars. At Stonehenge, the main axis aligns perfectly with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice. The purpose was clearly to track the movement of the heavens with scientific accuracy. And in Ireland, the passage tomb of Newgrange is aligned so precisely that only on the winter solstice does the light penetrate the roof box and illuminate the entire inner chamber. These sites were essentially astronomical observatories built to track time, seasons, and perhaps even cosmic cycles we don't fully understand. But the builder's genius goes beyond tracking stars. It's embedded in the very geometry of the stone. They didn't just understand astronomy, they were masters of mathematics. Again, the Great Pyramid serves as the ultimate textbook. Modern surveyors have discovered that the pyramid incorporates several profound mathematical constants. For example, the ratio of its perimeter to twice its height is an astonishingly accurate approximation of pi, 3.14159. The official discovery of pi is attributed to Archimedes, thousands of years later. How could the Egyptians, supposedly using simple fractions and ropes, have embedded a constant representing the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter into a four-sided structure? This suggests a lost advanced geometry. Even more mind-boggling is the integration of the golden ratio, or phi, approximately 1.618. This divine proportion, found everywhere in nature, is woven into the dimensions of the pyramid, from the angle of the face to the height of the apothem. These aren't accidental measurements. They require sophisticated algebraic and geometric understanding that, according to academic history, simply shouldn't have existed. These megaliths, therefore, are acting as a mathematical library, preserving universal constants that govern our cosmos. This level of precision, both astronomical and mathematical, leads us to the theory of sacred geometry and energy fields. Why were these structures placed exactly where they are? Many theorists argue that megalithic sites, from the temples of Malta to the huge stones of Karnak, are located along global lines known as ley lines. These lines are hypothesized to be channels of natural Earth energy, perhaps related to telluric currents or the Earth's electromagnetic field. If the ancients understood how to map and tap into this energy grid, the megaliths may have been constructed not just as clocks or libraries, but as transducers or ancient power stations. The complex, resonant internal structure of the pyramids and certain stone circles could have been designed to collect, amplify, or focus this energy for purposes we can only speculate about. Perhaps for healing, consciousness expansion, or even to aid in the very movement of the colossal stones we discussed in Section 3. The precision cuts and smooth internal chambers might be less about architecture and more about tuning the frequency of the structure to match the frequency of the Earth. The underlying message is clear. The true secrets of the megaliths lie not in their primitive origins, but in their advanced science. They were built by a civilization with a comprehensive knowledge of the Earth and the heavens. They are a time capsule, a beacon, a message left for us, the future inhabitants of this planet. The challenge is no longer how they built them, but what profound message are we supposed to decode from these eternal, astronomical blueprints? For 4 sections, we have been rigorously focused on evidence. The colossal weight, the surgical cuts, the lost science of acoustics, and the hidden math of the stars. But the deeper we dig into the anomalies, the more the conventional timeline fails to explain the evidence, the more we are forced to confront the theories that lie on the absolute fringe of archaeology. These are the truly controversial ideas. We have reached the point in the investigation where, logically, if human civilizations were not supposed to have the knowledge to build these structures when they did, then we must ask, where did the technology come from? The most provocative and widely debated answer is the ancient astronaut theory. The core premise is simple. The colossal feats of the megalith builders were too advanced for early man. Therefore, the technology, and perhaps even the blueprints, were imported by extraterrestrial visitors. Proponents of this theory point to ancient artwork, artifacts, and myths that they interpret as evidence of contact. Consider the famous sarcophagus lid of Pakal Votan at the Mayan site of Palenque. This relief, dating back well over 1,000 years, is interpreted by some as depicting Pakal operating a sophisticated machine, perhaps a spacecraft or a complex transport device, complete with controls and an exhaust flame. To skeptics, it's a stylized Mayan tree of life. To proponents, it's irrefutable proof of advanced technology bestowed upon ancient rulers. Furthermore, why do so many ancient cultures possess remarkably consistent myths about sky gods, or beings who descended from the heavens and taught humanity civilization? The theory posits that the megaliths served as markers, landing platforms, or perhaps even power plants for these visitors. Think of the Nazca lines in Peru, massive geoglyphs that are only truly discernible from high altitude. Were these created for human viewing, or as signals meant to be seen from the sky? The ancient astronaut theory acts as an elegant, though speculative, solution. It explains the sudden leap in engineering, the universal advanced knowledge, and the technological gap. If the knowledge came from elsewhere, all the earthly contradictions vanish. However, there is a powerful, slightly less radical, alternative that keeps the genius on Earth, but vastly resets the timeline. The pre-human civilization theory. This hypothesis suggests that the megaliths are not the creations of early Egyptians or Mayans, but are the relics of a much older, highly evolved human civilization that existed tens of thousands of years ago, before the last ice age, which was subsequently wiped out by a global cataclysm. A flood, seismic event, or planetary shift. Think of the legendary lost continents of Atlantis or Mu. This theory beautifully solves the chronological contradiction. The builders didn't need external help, they were simply our intellectual predecessors. This explains why sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey suddenly appear, fully formed with sophisticated megalithic carvings dating back to 9600 BC, a time period where standard archaeology says humans were still simple hunter-gatherers. Göbekli Tepe is too advanced, too sudden. It breaks the evolutionary model of civilization. If we accept the possibility of a forgotten, global, scientifically advanced human culture, then the shared knowledge, the pi, the phi, the astronomical alignments, makes perfect sense. They weren't primitive tribes struggling with ropes. They were the survivors of a previous golden age, preserving their high-tech methods and sacred knowledge in the most durable material possible, massive, precisely cut stone. The megaliths were their way of leaving an instruction manual that they hoped would survive the next global disaster. The ultimate question posed by Section 5 is this: when the evidence, the impossible size, the surgical precision, the coded knowledge simply cannot fit into our established historical framework, are we more comfortable clinging to the known timeline and labeling the feats impossible? Or are we ready to accept that either we had help from the stars, or that we are not the first advanced civilization to walk this earth? The answer to that question fundamentally changes everything we believe about our past. For the past few minutes, we've journeyed through the realms of the impossible. We've seen the evidence of tools that shouldn't have existed, the application of science that defies our historical timeline, and the profound coded knowledge written into the very architecture of these structures. From the 1,000-ton stones of Baalbek to the star-mapping precision of the Great Pyramid, the mystery of the megaliths remains the world's greatest engineering enigma. The contradiction is stark. We, with all our modern technology, cannot easily replicate these feats. Modern attempts to move multi-ton stones, even with the benefit of steel cables and diesel engines, are incredibly difficult and resource-intensive, often failing to achieve the precision seen in ancient sites like Pumapunku. This lack of modern capability underscores the brilliance of the ancient builders. They weren't just strong, they were smarter than we currently give them credit for. This brings us to the enduring legacy of the megaliths. They are more than just ruins. They are persistent challenges to our intellectual arrogance. They force us to confront the fact that our understanding of human history is, at best, incomplete. Every time we look at Stonehenge or the pyramids, we are essentially looking into a mirror, reflecting our own limitations. The megaliths stand as proof that the path of human technological and intellectual achievement is perhaps cyclical, with golden ages and devastating resets. But the most compelling idea of all is that we might be completely missing the point. What if the secret isn't how they built them, but why? We've seen the astronomical alignments, the perfect mathematical ratios of pi and phi. What if these structures were designed to be immortal instruction manuals? What if they were built not as tombs for the dead, but as survival guides for the living? Specifically, for future civilizations, for us. Imagine a technologically advanced culture facing an inevitable, cataclysmic global event. Knowing their paper, computers, and sophisticated cities would be destroyed, they chose the most durable medium possible: colossal stone. They encoded the fundamental, universal truths of mathematics, physics, like resonance and energy manipulation and astronomy, into structures that could survive any flood or earthquake. The megaliths, then, aren't monuments to a lost empire. They are messages of hope and survival. They are telling us, we were here. We understood the laws of the universe, and here is the essential knowledge you need to rebuild your own world. The puzzle is before us. The stone language is waiting to be fully deciphered. The true legacy of the impossible megaliths is to challenge us to expand our consciousness, to look beyond the primitive label, and to fully grasp the true, boundless genius of our distant ancestors. The ultimate secret lies not in the past, but in what we choose to believe about our future capacity to understand them.